this sheet here. And if folks in your caucus are thinking, boy, I just can't think of all the candidates that are out there, or people who might run, yada yada, this is essentially the list that the RNC compiled for their recent straw poll, if you saw that. They put this out about a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And so I used that list as the basis to put this together. So this is actually going to be a presidential and vice presidential straw poll. So what you're going to do is you're just going to hand out a piece of scratch paper like you did with the ballots. And each person's going to write on there their presidential pick, their vice presidential pick. They can use this sheet as inspiration if they need to. And they'll write those in, you'll collect them. Once you've collected them, then you will take this tally sheet and you'll put a mark in the appropriate box next to each candidate as they've been nominated either for president or vice president, or as they've been selected, excuse me, on their little ballots or scratch pieces of paper. So it doesn't need to be overly difficult to do this. You just hand out a piece of scratch paper to everybody, and once they've written in the 2 names, you collect them and you can tally it up. And then this will also be included in your mail envelope that will come back to the party. And we want to get these back as soon as possible so we can get these results out to the press as quickly as we can. So we're hoping to have everybody participate in this and fill these out and get these back to us. See.
What if somebody has a name that's not on the list?
There's open slots right here. You can write it in. So if somebody, so again, we're not excluding any potential candidates. So if there's a candidate that's not on here, they write it on their ballot. Just write it in and put a mark next to it. Yes. No. Yeah. You can't write, Jeb Bush, or Rand Paul, Okay, it's got to be 2 different names: president, vice president.
One vote for each office, or can you do more than one exception?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I like 2 different guys.
You could, you're picking one for president, one for vice president. Yep. Yes, ma'am. The RNC. They put out a big straw poll, was it 3 weeks ago now, and this was their list, the Republican National Committee.
Did I hear you say it's suggested that we show our caucus attendees this list to jog their memory?
If they'd like for inspiration, absolutely, that's perfectly okay. But you're the one that fills out this sheet. You as the PCO, you fill out this sheet.
That is your tally sheet.
This is the tally sheet, yes. So if you want to show this to them before they're filling out their ballots for inspiration, that's fine.
Can't you make a copy for everybody?
No, this is the tally sheet. This isn't a list. I mean, like I said, this is for you to mark how many votes each candidate gets and to submit back to us.
And I would like to point out before
I would like to point out to everyone that in a typical election year, where we have a presidential election year, a lot of who we choose to be our delegates to the county convention and the state convention depend on who they choose as their presidential choice. And this is not at all about that. This is more of an opportunity for us to just kind of get a gauge for Spokane County to see what our Republicans are thinking in terms of the potential for who we may see as the presidential choice. It has nothing again to do with your choice in becoming a delegate. It's not relevant in any way to that. And we don't have any need for anyone to reveal to anyone who they prefer or who they don't prefer. It's up to you in your caucus conversation. But generally speaking, again, this is just a gauge for us to highlight what Spokane County is looking to for future leadership.
Well said, Susan. Are there any other questions? Do we need to run through this portion for the mock caucus? So once this is, I see a hand.
I was just going to add, since there were less hands, there may be something in this example that people miss, and I want to make sure I point it out.
Okay.
I've done a lot of caucuses. I've done some things in the convention. I've led a lot of this type of stuff, and I want you to notice how Michael is handling questions and concerns. You have to maintain a sense of humility, and you have to take all the aggression out of it, how you handle people. Your opportunity here is to lead people in your community, and you have to do that understanding that you're representing the Republican Party as well. Keep that in mind.
Did anybody not hear what he said? Basically what he was just saying is that you are, as the PCO, as the caucus leader, you're representing the party. And it's just important that, I think in his words, you do it with humility and a sense of confidence and leadership, and you're able to kind of lead the neighbors that are at your neighborhood caucus. He's on there. Yep. I think left-hand column midway, maybe. Other questions? Martin?
I take a little umbrage with the concept of humility. I think it would be better for PCOs to treat everybody that comes with respect, regardless of their position.
Respect is the appropriate word, absolutely. Treat everybody that comes to your caucus with respect. Treat them, as though they're going to go run to the press and tell them exactly how the Republican Party was treated. Don't take anything personal. Other questions? So what's... Oh, go ahead.
At a previous caucus, the question was asked whether Democrats could attend. And the answer at that time was anyone can attend, but only Republicans could vote. Is that true in this?
Yes, and thank you for pointing that out. On your sign-in sheet, on the left-hand column, or right-hand column, is a signature line. And there's a little description above that basically says that you are swearing that you are a Republican and that you are not going to participate in any other political party's caucus or convention system. And so that's because we do, in Washington State, we do not register by political party. And so that's the closest you can get to essentially saying that you are a Republican.
And it is interesting to note that the Democrats will be having their caucuses on December 9th. They are doing a state convention.
March 9th.
Pardon me, thank you.
March 9th, yeah. So the Democrats are doing theirs on March 9th, and they're doing theirs a little differently than we do ours this year. So once you finish your straw poll, unless there's any other business, or if you want to, perhaps you skipped out on some of the conversation you were having on the platform or something else, at this point you could go back and finish that business. But unless there's any other business, you can conclude or adjourn the caucus meeting at this point. So most caucuses are going to be done 11:30 noon. If they go past noon, that's okay. But the typical caucus will be finished by 11:30.
And bear in mind that in the previous, in 2012, we did lose some of our precincts we lost through credentialing. That's why we have developed the minutes form that's included. If it feels a little complicated, please bear with us. It's a new form. Judy Crowder and her PCOs developed that for us in a practice precinct training that they had. And we would like your comments on it. We would like to know if it helps you. What we want to eliminate is the fear that some people have in doing a caucus, because it does sound a little confusing. We seem to be overburdensome with rules. It's really not that complicated, and thanks for bearing with us as we have a little fun with it in stumbling, trying to give you a few examples that you might not expect. Just keep in mind that as PCOs, you are an automatic delegate to the convention. We need you to be there. We need you to be there, especially to have the election of our new chair. And with reference to encouraging others from your caucus to become delegates, it may not sound exciting because we don't have that state convention to run for, but we're going to try to find some other ways to make it inviting and exciting. So do encourage them. Hopefully we'll be able to, for instance, after we take that presidential poll, we can take our top 3, and maybe Michael and I can talk somebody into making a visit to Spokane, because we're going to tell them we're going to support them in Spokane County. So we will try to make it exciting, but please do find a way to make it inviting for your delegate, or for your caucus attendees to be a delegate. It's an excellent experience.
We do plan the results of the presidential straw poll. We are going to release to the press, but we are also going to forward those numbers to the candidates that receive votes in the straw poll and let them know, hey, there is support. This is the level of support in Spokane County and their caucuses that you receive.
One of the things that was good in the county caucus 2 years ago was the people running in the Republican primary for the different offices spoke, or there's videos or whatever. And I was even planning on using that as a draw rate. Are we doing that same thing?
Yeah, we're planning on it. However, the only issue is, you know, the county convention's April 26th. Filing week is until May 12th. So it's entirely possible that there's candidates that haven't announced for various offices. But we do hope to have candidates speaking as part of the evening, kind of in between things to fill the gaps in time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, these attendance sheets, we get more, these are, more than like 9 before.
We have very limited extras. We do have some, and district leaders at World Caucuses will have those available. If you do go over the 10 slots on there, just use an additional sheet of paper and just follow the same structure.
Back in 2006 and then in 2010, I was the only one from my precinct that showed up. So.
Well, here's the benefit that we have from 2012. We had over 5,000 people turn out at the 2012 caucuses. We've done robocalls to all of them. We're doing emails to all of them. PCOs are encouraged to, if we can get you the names and numbers, are encouraged to call the folks who turned out at your caucus 2 years ago and remind them, hey, the caucus is coming up again, please turn out. So while, yes, it's entirely possible that you could show up if you're the only one there, it's also entirely possible that we have pretty good turnout this year for an off-year election because there's a lot of people who showed up in 2012 and we've been able to outreach to them and encourage them to participate. So, you know, nobody knows anything until March 1st, but we're very hopeful that we can get a decent turnout this year. And by the way, Mike Fagan has been very gracious in helping promote this on his radio show on 6:30 a.m. in the mornings. Rick Rydell, I know, has promoted it a little bit. He's going to promote it some more coming up. And we're going to try and get the message out on the citizens as well. So we're trying to get the message out every way we can, and we're also doing some Facebook advertising and stuff like that targeted at Republicans. So.
If a PCO can't make it, can they designate a proxy, or do they have to have
Yeah. If PCO, if something happens, you absolutely can't make it, but you know, hey, so-and-so lives in my precinct, you can tell your district leader, hey, this person is going to be my temporary precinct chair. Now, they will still have to be elected as the permanent chair at the meeting, but you can designate that they be the temporary chair.
And you as a PCO remain the automatic delegate as long as you have properly fulfilled the responsibilities of arranging for that caucus. That means that the person you invite to chair for you in your absence does not become an automatic delegate. You maintain that yourself.
They will, if they want to be a delegate, they will have to run even if they are the permanent chair of your caucus. Bruce, did you have something?
Well, I had it marked down. Everybody here versus the PCO, but if there's a PCO that does not show for caucus, tell them what happens to their delegate positions and
If a PCO does not show up, doesn't make any, or has not helped make arrangements for their caucus, doesn't show up for their caucus, they're not considered an automatic delegate because they've not fulfilled the duties required of an elected precinct committee officer.
And that is specified in the rules that we passed down.
It is. So it's a high bar, but it is possible to reach.
So we conclude our proceedings, and is there a runner that's going to collect our paperwork? Do we take it somewhere and turn it in? Where do we turn our caucus?
So please communicate with your district leader and either arrange for them to come by and pick it up or for you to bring it to them. We're going to be having folks at the GOP headquarters in the afternoon for district leaders or PCOs, however they've made arrangements to bring the materials by and get that to us. So that's our goal.
I don't think it's an issue for me, but by what time of the day does the paperwork have to be at the GOP headquarters?
Well, we're going to have folks there probably as early as 1 or 2. Again, we'll get the message out to your district leaders so that they can let you know. But it's going to be, the key thing is to arrange time with your district leaders, either to bring it to the Tapio Center, which is where the GOP headquarters is, or to get it to them, either they visit with you or you visit with them, one of the two. So, but please communicate with your district leaders on making arrangements to get the packets collected. Are there any other questions?
When you're directed to go onto the website to find out where your caucus location is, many places are just says full caucus location without there being a specific designation. Is that going to change so people know where to go?
Well, it's right at the top. It says all the pool locations are here, and it has a whole list of all the pool locations. Each section where it says that, it's designated in black right above where that pool location is. And there's one other person I think that had that issue as well. We can try and change that as well, but it makes it easier, quite frankly, to read it if you don't have all those addresses lining up. But we can look at trying to change it. So, other questions? Okay, I'm going to ask one last thing here real quick. Is there anything that happened in 2012, for those of you who were PCOs in 2012, that, you know, either your precinct got thrown out, or there was a question you had, or something happened that you just didn't know how to deal with or handle or anything like that? Is there anything that's coming to anybody's minds that you want to try and get answered? If not, you can talk to me after, or if something pops up later, contact your district leader. We can try and get an answer for you. Okay?
Question, if a new PCO is elected in the caucus, when do they take their responsibilities?
If a new PCO is elected,
Sorry. Appointed.
well, no PCOs are appointed or elected in the caucuses. So if it's a vacant precinct and somebody steps up as the chair of that precinct, certainly we'd love to have a conversation with them about becoming the PCO for that area. But just because you maybe become the temporary or the permanent chair of the caucus, you don't become a PCO, or you're not obligated to become a PCO.
So if they want to be a PCO, if you see a blank table and there's only one person there, and you want to talk to them, get them in touch with the district leader if that district is vacant, or if the PCO is not active.
Absolutely. And remember, for those of you who are PCOs, who are looking to remain PCOs next year, filing week is May 12th. So you'll want to get your applications in online or in person at the auditor's office on May 12th, or the week of May 12th. Any other questions? Anything else for the good of the order from our folks up here? Any comments from you guys? No? Well, at the conclusion of your caucus, you're going to take all your paperwork. You're going to make sure your minutes are completely filled out. You're going to make sure all the motions that have been made, all the edits or comments on the platforms or any other documentation is included. It's all going to go back in the mail envelope, and that's what you'll get to the party or your district leader.
Do we need a motion to close the caucus?
If all business has been concluded, there's no need for a motion to close the caucus.
The chairman can close the
The
caucus.
chairman can close the caucus, correct. Yes. But you're going to want to attach it. So she's asking if the caucus meeting form can be used as the official minutes for the caucus meeting, and the answer is yes. However, you're going to want to make sure that any additional content is also included. So notes, individual notes on the platform are included. You want to make sure the surveys that are filled out are included, and you want to make sure that any motions that are made that maybe can't fit on that sheet are written on a separate sheet and attached. As long as all of the content materials are there in a legible, easy to read format. Yes.
There is one thing on this form that I think is absolutely necessary, and that's the order in which the delegates and alternates are elected. That's really important.
And more important for alternate, but you're correct, absolutely.
Well, I think I have to, because input, I was number 3 vote giver for the alternate, but the order was not recorded in the minutes, and we elected 5, we're only supposed to elect 4. I was the last one to sign the sheet, so I got bumped out.
What I would recommend, Val, and to all of you PCOs, when you look at the minutes that we've proposed, you'll notice that I believe there are 7 lines for both delegates and alternate delegates. What you should do immediately is look at your envelope, and on that first sheet where it says PCO, do a dash and put automatic delegate, and then in the spaces below, do a line through, like if you have 2 alternates and 2 delegates, do a line through 3 through 7 and just X out the balance so that nobody's tempted to accidentally forget how many delegates you have. On the front page of that, make sure that you note how many delegates and alternates you have. Am I not making sense,
And
Val?
the number of delegates and alternates are on your manila packet. It's also on the website. So if for some reason,
And all I'm saying is X out those extra lines. If they're not applicable to you, if you only have 2 or 3 delegates and alternates, then just X out the balance of the lines so that you're not, that an accident doesn't happen.
Because then you'll get your precinct thrown out. Next meeting.
No.
No.
Number 1 is the first,
you're an automatic, so you don't go on there as a delegate.
right? So you write on there, Joanne Fowler, automatic, PCO automatic delegate, and then the first person you nominate and elect as, or elect, not nominate, the first person nominated or elected as,
She's an automatic, so she doesn't need to be written on there at all.
no, but
Yeah.
just so you're aware that you don't have to be number 1. As a PCO, you're not number 1, you're automatic.
So you're not included on there at all.
Included on that list.
Yes, so none of you who are PCOs are included. However, I know there are a couple of you who are here because your PCO is not able to be at the caucus, so you'll be the temporary precinct chair, and you'll have to run to be the permanent precinct chair. You will, if you choose to be a delegate, you will have to run for that delegate position.
You would be number 1.
Okay, is there any other questions? Judy?
You want to make sure that the PCO or the chairman sign the minutes on the bottom.
Yes, yes. Make sure you sign the minutes. Make sure you fill out the top portion of the sign-in sheet with your precinct name, precinct number, and just make sure that's all filled out so we have all of that. But yes, make sure you sign the minutes.
Your caucus, in order to expedite voting, chooses not to use the secret ballot, but to merely use show of hands at the
If that's the decision of the caucus, and I mean, it's because the rules don't state how we vote, you as the PCO can decide, but if somebody chooses to make a motion that we're going to do it a different way, then that can happen. So for example, the way we did it was by silent vote, because as the PCO, that was my choice. And the body didn't fight me on that. That's the way we were going to do it. However, somebody could have made a motion, and if it was seconded and approved, that we're going to do it by a hand count, then that would have been the way we did it.
As a PCO, is it necessary that we also sign in on the sign-in sheet?
No, because you're an automatic, that's only for your attendees. You're going to sign the top part with your name and your precinct number, but this is just for the participants who show up in addition to you.
This is kind of right before when I stole on the caucus meeting, secretary notes, it says attendees who are observers only, not allowed to vote. And then on the registration, it says to be eligible to participate in the caucus. So everybody that comes in the door has to say they're voting?
No. Everybody who participates, everybody who's a voting member of the caucus has to live in your precinct and sign that they are a Republican.
Do you have a choice to let people in or not, or just?
Well, yeah, if it's your house, I mean, there are limits, but it really is a public meeting. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is. And so it is plausible that members of the media may want to attend caucuses and observe and be there as part of it. However, being that it is your premises, you can place limits on what they can do on your property. But it is possible. We are asking, though, that observers who are members of the media talk to the party about, or deciding where they're going to attend and those sorts of things, so that it can be well orchestrated. Yes.
All right, so when it comes to voting, you brought up a question about whether or not it has to be done by secret ballot or not. And I suppose you don't necessarily have to, but since you're allowed to vote for more than one delegate at a time, it's going to be tough to do that by a show of hands. So I would suggest that you do a paper ballot unless you can do a unanimous consent, which means you have equal to or less number of delegates, then you have slots, in which case you can just say, you know, these are the 5 people that want to be, we have 6 slots, does anybody have an objection to that, and go by unanimous consent that way. But if you are actually in contention for delegates positions, it's going to be pretty much impossible to do a hand vote for more than one person at a time.
It's a valid point. So just stick to the sound vote. Unless you can do it by acclamation. Okay, any other questions? If there are no other questions, you can talk to me after, or you can grab Susan or anybody else up here if you have questions, and we'll be happy to get those to you. Otherwise, have a good night and have a great caucus on March 1.
Thanks for showing.
Thank you, everybody.
You hit the red button on that paper down.